In my world there is music and good vibes and laughter and lovers, adventure and friendship. We know who we are.
Hello and welcome everybody to Be the Wellness Podcast. Adam and Vanessa Lambert winding up a doozy for you.
Yes, we are indeed. And
not a doobie, but
no.
a doozy.
Contrary, even though you're probably thinking that's possible after our last couple episodes. We're actually switching gears.
Yeah.
And we have a lovely woman on today. Her name is Jen Esquer, and she's also known as DocJenFit on Instagram and her website and all the social medias. And she's just a lovely, awesome woman, and we just really enjoy getting to know her and sitting down and having this conversation in our house in person.
Yeah, for sure. So she is a doctor of physical therapy.
Yes.
And, practices that.
Yes.
But in a cool way. I mean, and you'll hear her talk about it, but she's very much about helping people understand how to do basic maintenance on their bodies.
Yes.
And that's something that we wholeheartedly get behind. This idea that if there's something broken, you have to go see somebody as step one is just sort of low order thinking. We
Right.
really need to be in this place of having a general understanding of how our bodies work, such that we can say, well, that's weird, my shoulder hurts, but I wonder if the problem is here, and like have some basic understanding of like what to do about it. Like
Right.
3 or 4 things that you can troubleshoot before having to seek out professional care, which, may inevitably happen. But, if you don't need to, you don't need to. And she does a pretty good job she does a really good job of helping people get through that.
Yeah, absolutely. And her messaging is just really lovely too, because it's very much about the story you tell yourself, empowering yourself and allowing yourself the autonomy and authority over your own physiology, and giving you incremental sort of cues and steps towards working out whatever those kinks may be for you, but really giving you the power and the language and the accessibility to your own body. And I think that that's what's really cool about the way that she presents the information, is that it's very digestible and very bite-sized, yet she's telling you like to own the information. It's not about her, well, make sure that, you come back and I'll give you the next piece of your cheese and you keep following. Like, she wants to actually enable you to be your own cheese factory at some point.
Make your own cheese, people.
Exactly.
That's kind of funny. I don't think she said it like that. But
She did not say it like that.
but maybe
I'm sure
she will. After this, she'll probably steal that.
Yeah, she was much more articulate than that. But she's, she's also just very personable, funny, lovely. And yeah, check her out on Instagram, DocJenFit, on her website. She's got a couple of awesome programs, the mobility method being sort of her main one that really takes this stuff and helps you gain ownership over your physiology. And we wholeheartedly recommend it.
Yeah, get in there. And she'll talk about it she'll talk better than we will.
She'll use better words.
She'll use better words to describe what she's doing than we're doing right now. So please
stay tuned.
Stay tuned. But first,
yes,
quick announcement.
Yes, quick
Unveil
announcement.
Your Wellness September.
Yep. Kicks
starts
off
next Monday.
week. Yep.
So we're
in the off week. This is the you talk, I talk part.
Right.
Okay.
But we should at least let it finish a word before you. So I'll say half a word, then you say the other half. Is that how we're doing it?
Exactly.
Bottom line, Unveil Your Wellness is kicking off.
Yes.
Again, and we are nearing fall programming. So it's time to get in there, get yourself worked back in, and get ready to really tackle the winter time or the fall time.
Yeah.
In the northern hemisphere. It's the cool programming.
Yeah,
it's the fun stuff.
It is the fun stuff. I agree. And another announcement: we have one spot in Peru left, one single spot for our Peru adventure retreat, and a couple spots left for Costa Rica in 2019. So if you're thinking about joining us on an adventure, make sure to get in and grab your spots.
Yep. And Peru, especially if you're feeling extra adventure-y, Peru's what's up. And just as a reminder, we will provide you with the training and everything required to get you ready to go for a fairly arduous journey, but 100% worth it. It's the thing about things that are hard.
And the mobility method would really help with that too.
It would, for sure.
Absolutely.
Get that figured out. Yeah.
Yeah, but we will give you the Training for the Adventure of Life Peru program, and you will be ready for that adventure of a lifetime. And we're really looking forward to getting back into the Andes and having that epic adventure.
Indeed.
Yes. So, without further ado, let's get to this lovely, awesome, badass chick. Here's Jen.
And we're live. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being
Exciting
here.
to be here.
Yeah, it's so fun. We're already on a roll.
I know, exactly. I've been loving the conversation.
We did like a little warm-up session.
Yeah, exactly. Breaking me in.
Yeah, totally. I was like, all right, how far can we push this girl? Pretty far, apparently.
I'm in for it all.
Yeah, I love it. So let's just backpedal for a moment and just kind of get the audience up to speed. Tell us just a little bit about you. Obviously, you just told us you're a Southern California native, but maybe just get us up to speed on who Jen is.
Oh man, how deep do you want me to go
As deep
here?
as you want to go. You could go in the womb. I mean, any past life regression, like whatever.
I haven't had that experience yet.
Right.
Yeah, as I said, I grew up Inland Empire, so I am Southern California native. I lived through 3 months in New York and Vegas. So
Okay.
does that
Nice
count
caveat.
at all?
Yes.
And it was like the 3 coldest months in New York. So I went January through March. So I got my first snow day too. So I got to experience what that felt like.
Nice.
Didn't have to go to work.
You're like, yes.
Like, wait, what?
Exactly. But that was clinicals in grad school. So I went to undergrad. I did Cal State Fullerton, graduated kinesiology, wanted more. Went on to Loma Linda University, where I got my doctor in physical therapy degree. And that's when I went off to New York and did a clinical out there. Vegas, I did a clinical because I got to work with a few Cirque du Soleil athletes, which
that's
was amazing.
amazing. Yeah,
such a cool experience. And now I'm here in LA, which I love. It was funny, in grad school, actually, I met the calisthenic community in Venice, and that's when I started to come down and really get a feel for the community out here. Fell in love with them, fell in love with the place, then met the acro community down in Santa Monica, and I just knew like being down in LA was going to be my people.
Yeah. You're like, these are my clowns.
Yeah, exactly. So as soon as I got a job, I came out and got my first job in Santa Monica, which was like a dream. And then it became an even bigger dream to leave the clinic and start doing my own thing, which has been absolutely amazing. So now I work with clients one-on-one out here in LA, and I have online products where I'm actually affecting people and getting them into their own bodies without even having to touch them, which is awesome and amazing because I don't even have to do anything. They're doing it themselves, which is my goal, my purpose is to empower people to drop into their own bodies.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a good one because this is one of those things I think that there's a tendency for there to be a lot of mystery around our own physicality, right? We're like, oh, there's something wrong with you. Well, you need to go see a specialist that knows this, and this. And sometimes, obviously, that is the call. But, man, having the end goal being the basic understanding of how to do things for yourself is like super good idea.
Yeah, and totally. Like, reach out, go to someone when you need a little bit more facilitation.
Right.
But that's what it should be. If you're going to someone because you're expecting to be fixed, you're probably going to the wrong person.
Right. So we were talking before the show started, and you talked about being a gymnast. You grew up competing, and was that where you fell in love with the physicalness and got inspired to really go deeper into this?
100%. Gymnastics was everything. I tried every sport actually before gymnastics.
Yeah.
Was terrible at them all. So gymnastics is where I settled. And really I just fell in love. And then once I quote unquote retired at the age of 16.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
First retirement.
They're very short careers.
I remember my mom would like sneak me into the gym with her, and she would just be like, "Oh, just walk next to me, and we're just gonna get in." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And she would take me into the classes of like yoga and Pilates, and I remember taking my first Pilates class and really falling in love. And afterwards, the instructor was talking to some of the people who were coming, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I did gymnastics." And I was like, "No wonder. It's so similar. It's like conditioning, and it speaks my language of using your own body and how you can do that." And so I fell in love with that. And so once I graduated, I was teaching gymnastics, and I loved that, and it was great, but I knew like this wasn't what I wanted to do in life. And so they started to want me to go up to optionals and to continue coaching. And I was like, I can't like be coaching and just suddenly leave the girls. So I never went up to that next level. But I always had a passion of like, well, why am I taping an ankle? And what is more that I could do? What more can I see with their movement? How can I actually help? Is taping an ankle helping?
Right.
You know, so like it just, for me, it was always going deeper. But while I was there coaching, this one lady came in and she started a Pilates boot camp and she let all the coaches go for free. And so I was her one person. She was just getting started. She had like no clientele and I came religiously.
Nice.
So I got to work with her one-on-one, and eventually she was like, once she started to build this little community there, she had me subbing and teaching, and I started doing that. But I was still like, well, there has to be more, because I could modify movement. I can get clients to not have pain or to stay away from pain, and to feel where they wanted to feel the areas. But I was always like, but why am I modifying movement? Or why do they have back pain? Why do they have knee pain? So for me, I continue to dig deeper and just want to know the why. Yeah. And so that's what led me down the path of physical therapy.
That's awesome. I love it. So let's talk about how you kind of stumbled into this Instagram online presence, because you said earlier that you didn't really have any intention for that to really be something. So I always love hearing about this, because I think that the most organic stories and the way that people sort of emerge in that way is always really cool. So I'd love to hear, like, when did you suddenly realize, like, oh, I kind of have a following, or I have a voice, or, you know, was it something you suddenly realized, or did you realize, oh, people are following me, maybe I should have a voice now? How did that go for you?
It was more of the second one.
Okay.
That you said.
Like, where are all these people coming from?
Where did they come from?
So, like I said, I met the calisthenic community out in Venice, and one of the guy who initially invited me is because I would show some of my workouts, and a lot of them were outside and on bars and at parks. And I would tag the calisthenic pages that I knew at the time. And one of them reached out and he was like, hey, we're in Venice. Like, why don't you just come down and hang out with us? And so I did. And he would post the calisthenic community. So once I started to come regularly and he started to post and put me out there, he had like 300,000 followers at the time.
Got it, yeah.
So, and 4 years ago, that was a
lot.
So once he started to post me, I just naturally started to get followers. And so I was like, oh, do I not post my family and friends?
Right.
Should I only do handstands now?
Right.
That's
totally.
Yeah. So then I just became my calisthenic journey, because he asked me to compete. And so I was like, okay, if I'm going to compete, like, let me just post what workouts I'm doing and what new skills I'm getting while I'm trying to compete. And it became this side hobby, especially being in grad school at the time. It was so fun to have something to get away from. Yeah. And to have this thing that I still had a community. Like, I went every single weekend religiously to meet up with people and to play and to have fun and be connected to my body in a really cool way of where I was still kind of competing.
Yeah, totally.
So that was really fun. And the more that I saw people commenting and liking and coming to my page and knowing that they were getting value from it, that's what kept me, like, also wanting to contribute to it.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. The feedback makes such a big difference. Like, and that's why I just have a feeling that a lot of people do end up kind of with that same story, because how do you just keep like shouting into the wind, you know what I mean? If you're like, you don't have a following and you're like, but I'm doing really cool stuff over here every day, hashtag cool stuff, you know, and then nobody shows up. I don't know.
If you put the intention out there of like, I'm going to have an audience because I know I can inspire people, that could also, it could work.
Yeah. So I didn't even know that there was a competition piece of the calisthenic. Okay, so what does that look like? What's a competition look like?
So WCO is the company. They created World Calisthenics Organization, and they actually do compete all over the world.
Wow. That's so cool.
It is essentially sloppy gymnastics.
Yeah, totally.
Because it's just on the bars and kind of free for all and whatever. Which is also why I was like, okay, I'm doing all the controlled movements of this. I'm not trying to throw myself around and get injured, because there's a lot of injury that comes along with just like experimenting and being outside and throwing yourself around, rather than in gymnastics you're like, have mats and control the environment a little bit more.
And spotters.
Set skills. Yeah, exactly. So with I knew, my end goal is to help other people move. And if I am restricted within my own body or tear myself up, I can't do that.
Right.
So it was fun aspect, but I really made sure I stayed within the controlled movements of it all. But they do some crazy stuff and they really take it all over. And I really have met some super inspiring, just really cool individuals out of it. And that was all Instagram was at first for me, was just meeting really cool movers. I got into like the yoga community, then I got into the AcroYoga community, and I would just go to these events and be invited places where I continued to be able to meet people who just wanted to move their bodies.
Yeah.
And so that's all Instagram was for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Now it's a whole thing. So, so how long have you been outside of the practice here in Santa Monica, or I guess on your own?
It's been a little over a year now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Which has been awesome.
Yeah.
And I, as soon as I left the clinic, I just kind of took a leap of faith of people were reaching out wanting to work with me. I was starting to build that outside of it anyways.
Right.
And I realized I'm limiting myself from the opportunities to be able to go and just do and travel like we were talking about before. And I was going to end up passing up opportunities that could come my way if I stayed in a clinic where I was working 9 to 5. So I just decided, let me take a leap of faith, see what would happen. And all of a sudden, that clientele, I was doing 6 days a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so it filled up quick, which was awesome. And I'm super grateful.
Good problems to have. Yeah.
Great problems to have.
Yeah.
But then I started to say, but what more can I give? My Instagram is a cool 1-minute video. People save it. People might go back at some point and get value out of it. But what am I actually giving people? So that's when I decided I'm going to launch an online program. Have no idea what to do. Have no email list. Have this huge following.
Right.
But have no idea what to do. And that's when I decided I just want to put something out there that I know people could get value from it.
Yeah.
Awesome. And it seems that we're in this really unique time right now where people are actually opening up their minds and really embracing the mobility story.
Yeah.
Where, 10 years ago, if you would be hard pressed to get someone to stretch after a workout or whatever. And it really does feel like, obviously you and Kelly Starrett and all these people, they're really bringing this story to the forefront. So it's not something you do like if you want to, or, if you feel like you have a problem. Like, this is like daily maintenance.
Exactly.
This is, it's cool that people are really embracing that. So I'm curious.
So much.
Yeah, I know, it's awesome, right? So I'm curious for you, do you feel like people were just ripe for that program when you released it? They were just like, give me more?
They were ready, 100% completely. And I even asked my audience, I surveyed them, I asked them in a live, I said, if I had something for you guys, what would you want? Everyone said mobility.
Yeah.
So I knew it was going to go that way anyways, but it was easy to be able to give because it is the foundational layer. And if I'm telling you, how can you prevent having to see someone like me? By keeping up with your foundational layer. And so for me, it felt like I can give people a screening. I can give people the tools to be able to see their own body and assess their own body. And it does take having the time and tuning in.
Yes.
But when you're able to do that, you are able to tap into so much. And what I saw through grad school is people who were using their full capabilities. So I met, a guy with cerebral palsy who lived completely on his own. He was out of a wheelchair. You can't even understand him because his motor control of his mouth doesn't work well. But we saw him come down from his wheelchair, put on his shoes and socks, which takes like 20 minutes, and pull himself back up onto his wheelchair. And when he got too big to pull himself back up into his wheelchair, he started swimming.
Wow.
So here's someone who's literally working within their full capability of their body and not saying I have limitations. Oh, well, I can't do it.
Right.
And what I see a lot from the majority of people is they say, well, this is what my body can do.
Yeah, this is all I get now.
Oh, my arms don't lift anymore, like whatever. It just does. I can't touch my toes.
Right.
Like I can't.
Right.
And I'm like, well, when you were a baby, you were actually sucking on them.
Right. Something happened there. Yeah.
So you can.
Yeah.
You're just not allowing your body to go into that full capability. And so I wanted to bring people back to the idea of what would it look like if you could take your body back into its full capability.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah,
and
that sounds good.
Yeah, I love but like the way that you do it is such a lovely way. It's fun and it's playful and it's light and it's inviting. And I think that honestly, sometimes because this stuff is intimidating and, you know, if you can't touch your toes, a lot of times people feel self-conscious. They feel, you know, like I can't even go to the gym because I'm overweight, so I can't even like step in. So it's like the way that you do it and speak about it is so inviting and welcoming, and I think that that's really important. So I just want to commend you for that, because it makes it more possible for more people to go, oh, okay, she's talking to me.
Well, thank you
You're
for
welcome.
that. I love that. And that's what everyone asks, like, well, who's your program for? And I say humans.
Right.
Yeah. You know, like if you have a body, it's pretty much for you. I'm not just talking to the athletic population. I'm not just talking to people who don't know how to move. I'm talking to everyone. And I love hearing stories. Like, I have a lot of personal trainers who have my program. I have chiropractors and physical therapists, co-workers who have my program too, because we're all able to learn from each other. And I love the idea that if someone can take this and take it to their clients, beautiful. Like, you're not stealing from me, you're using it. And I love that. And that's the idea behind it too.
And I think that's a really important thing, because there's this perception of like a zero-sum game when it comes to, well, almost everything, but especially in fitness, I feel like, where people are like, oh, I patented a new kind of squat, and I'm not gonna. Nobody else can do it. You know, and you can only get this squat over here. Like, Jesus, man. Like, everybody knows how to. Well, not everybody knows how to squat, but most people know how to squat. Like, it's not that big a deal if your information can help somebody.
Allow it to
by all means, let it get out there. Yeah, I think that's really important, because there's so much that gets wrapped up, and I could probably soapbox on this for a second, but like there's a lot of things I feel like really good information that get wrapped up in somebody's own proprietary blend of it, because they're trying to hold on to it. And then everything that they had that was good gets thrown out once somebody kind of calls bullshit on their whole thing. And you're like, no, there was a lot that was going on over here that was great, but he didn't make it up. You know what I mean? It's like, this guy is just kind of doing his thing, and you can still do all of that. But a lot of things just get thrown by the wayside in that respect. And I think if you can just be open with it and say, look, this is what's out there, and I would love for everybody to be using it one way or the other. And it's great, because it's something that we come across a lot, is that, I mean, we talk about nutrition, and we talk about strength and conditioning, and we talk about mindfulness and all of this. And we get a lot of like, oh, well, you know, it's, even with the podcast, people are like, well, I have this program that's coaching, so I don't know if you guys want to talk about it. We're like, no, let's talk about it. Let's get it out here. Because the bottom line is there might be somebody who needs to hear what you have to say, and they're not hearing it from us. And so by all means, you know, take it away. We don't want people who aren't jiving with what we're doing. So if there's something else that works, you know, do it. You know?
Exactly. But there's the difference between coming from the scarcity mindset and coming from the abundant mindset.
Yes.
Which you're going to get so much out of life if you just come from that abundant place. And that's what, you know, people don't understand it because it's scary and it's hard, and I get it. Like, a lot of people are off doing their own thing, and it does get mixed, but you are your own individual, and you're saying it in a different way, and you're conveying it, and you're going to get different people's attention, you know. And so just put it out there and just let it, like, and help other people.
Just come from love.
Please. It's okay.
Just do it.
So okay, well, this is great. I love we're going into this kind of talk. This is my favorite stuff. So, okay, what do you do to keep that abundant mindset? Because you're talking about leaving the clinic a year ago and taking that leap of faith. Like, there's always that sticky moment where you're like, okay, am I being stupid or am I being abundant? Like, which one am I being? So what do you use, like, in those moments? What are some go-to thought patterns, processes, things that you implement?
Really going back to my why. Like, why am I doing anything? Am I just leaving the clinic because I'm like, I can make more money on my own? Or am I leaving because I'm like, no, but I want to affect people in a different way that the clinic wasn't quite giving me?
Got it.
And is there more opportunity where I can still work with people and be able to multiply that in a different way? Not about money. But more about what am I actually trying to give in the world, and why am I doing something? So when I go back to my why, my intention, what I'm connecting to, and what I want to bring out into the world, that is my go-to 100% of the time. And then it's also just going back to the gratitude portion of it all, of like, what what do I get to be grateful for in this moment? What, even the lessons that I learn when I mess up and the failures, like what did I learn out of anything? Because there's always a lesson to be learned. And that is entrepreneurship as well. I never even knew, honestly, that I was going to be an entrepreneur. Never intended it. Like when I was in grad school, and my boyfriend is Lewis, Lewis House. Some people might know that name, but he'd be like, oh, you should do your own thing. And I'd be like, business, that's over my head. And never intended to be doing anything on my own. Or if he would bring something up, I'd be like, oh yeah, well, I could do this with this friend. Or like, I never, again, saw myself able to take something on myself.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, the more that I moved into the why, the more that I moved into what I'm really trying to create, it just happened.
I love it. Awesome.
That's cool. Yeah. Sweet.
We have something. We have to do something. We have to go figure out our why really quick.
Yeah, like
I'll be back.
Yeah, well, that's actually really important. Got to get like a month to figure this out. Yeah.
So you just mentioned your boyfriend, Lewis. How did you guys meet, or, whatever you're comfortable talking about?
Yeah.
Just, we'd love to hear that story.
So he stalked me on social media.
God, I love it.
It's like step one these days, though. I mean, to be fair,
It's so funny. So back in the day, I had 11,000 followers. He had only 7,000.
Oh,
hey.
The record
stand that I had more followers than him.
I love it, dude.
It was so funny. So he reached out, and it was so funny because I'm in grad school, and he like commented on something. I went to his page. I saw he had a photo with Shawn Johnson, the gymnast, and I was like, what? How does he have a photo with her? And then that sparked my interest. I'm like, I'm not interested in you. How do you have a photo with Shawn Johnson?
That's awesome.
And then we were just kind of talking back and forth, and I went into work, and I worked at a Pilates place, and my boss actually has an online product with Pilates as well, and she was like, oh my god, do you know who commented on your photo? And I'm like, no. She's like, it's Lewis House. And I'm like, who's that? It's so funny because I had zero clue, not in this world even a little bit, you know. I'm in grad school, I'm just having fun with calisthenics and meeting movers and whatever. So it was so funny to like have that experience, and then now here we are.
Just like that.
And how long ago was that?
That was over 4 years ago.
Oh, that's awesome. So it's cool because you've grown in your careers together.
Yeah.
That is really cool. That's really cool. Because I actually wonder that. I wonder about that now. Like, it's kind of an interesting thing meeting people that you have your online personas and then you come together, and how do your online personas get along, and do your private personas get along? How you kind of mesh all that. But it sounds like you guys kind of grew in it together in a way.
Yeah, I mean, we've grown through a lot. We come from very different backgrounds, so it's also super interesting to have grown just as individuals in that way. And it's so funny too, because I mean, it's easy to see I have now this online product, online space, and be like, well, your boyfriend's Lewis, so of course you do.
Right.
But at the same time, I had to do everything on my own timing.
Yeah.
He would even say, why don't you do this? And I'd be like, what? No.
You don't know.
And I'm that's a little bit of my stubbornness coming through there. My own individuality. But I really things happened the way that they organically did for me. And every time I happened to do something, or I happened to come up with something, or he'd be like, finally, I told you. Like when I left the clinic, he was like, I've been telling you to leave. And I'm like, chill. I gotta do this on my own time.
Totally.
Figuring it out.
So it's been fun and just interesting. And I gotta say, obviously a lot of my inspiration has come through him and meeting a lot of different people just in that space, which has been super amazing. But it's definitely been an interesting journey to just take this on and do it. And just lean in.
Lean in.
Lean in and jump.
Well, you have your why, so it makes it easier, right?
It really honestly does. It sounds so cliche, but it's so you can't do anything if nothing will really work into it, I believe, until you're really wholeheartedly in that.
Understand that. Yeah, because I think just what you were saying earlier of when things get weird and you're trying to understand what the hell you're doing or make a decision, if you don't have that core thing, value or why or whatever it is, then you got nothing to peel back the onion to and be like, that's why.
Yes.
You just you're out
Stake in the
there
ground.
stuck in space.
So tell us about your programs, because you have 2 different programs. Just tell the listeners what they are and maybe what would be best for what kind of person.
Yeah, so the mobility method is really my baby. I mean, that's what I created because I'm really, really wanting to empower people to dive into their own bodies. So it has this whole self-screening assessment where you kind of can move through every type of range of motion within your body from neck to toes and see what is probably not quote unquote normal. So it always goes through the normal. Can that be over? Can it be under? Sure.
Right.
And that can still be normal for you. But these are just the normal ranges of motion that we go through in PT school and, what your body should technically be at. So it gives people an opportunity to kind of find out, because a lot of people will move through it and be like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that this was restricted.
Yeah, right.
and then it just goes through the program of like, here's your neck module, your shoulder module. And so per restriction, there'll be like 3 to 5 different exercises that you can dive into, or you can just go into the different modules and see what's opening up for you. And the reason I did it that way is because there's no one program that's going to work for everyone. There's no one perfect mobility routine that one person needs, and there's also no one back program, one shoulder program. And that's the idea that I wanted people to understand, is like, where you have pain, there's probably other areas of your body you actually need to open up so that you can decrease that area of pain. Right. Because where you feel it is probably not where it's happening.
Right.
So I want people to dive into their cause. Where could that actually be coming from? So that's why I set it up that way, which it does require work then. It requires people to dive in, but it's also a lifelong program. One-time price for this lifetime access to be able to dive into something. If at any time something breaks down or something happens, what's this mobility? Like, be able to dive back in. I also have a foam rolling module in there that it's really quick and brief, but it's the why behind foam rolling, because foam rolling is great, and it's a tool that you can use to help decrease that sensitivity in that nervous system, but it's not breaking up fascia. It's not breaking up scar tissue, so I want people to understand the why behind why they're doing different things.
Got it. Yeah.
And then there's a breathing module in there as well to just kind of, again, tap back into where your breath should actually be coming from within the diaphragm and how to actually make that happen. Yeah. So there's so much in there, which could get overwhelming, but but it's just my way of giving you the tools to be able to dive into your own body.
Right. It's like a reference manual, really.
Exactly.
Right. So you go, I have an ankle thing. Let's go into the ankle.
Ankles.
Let's see what's going on.
Exactly.
Let's look at the knee. Let's look at
let's look at the body as a whole, as opposed to parts. And I don't know why we got into this mentality of looking into the parts when we work as a whole.
Well, it's the specialist thing, right? Yeah. So it's like, oh, you have an ankle thing? Oh, go to the ankle guy. Or like it's how the medical industry works.
Exactly.
They separate it out, and you go to someone who specializes in the knee or in, cancer or whatever it is. And you're like, wait a minute. Pump the brakes. Let's bring it back in. Let's huddle up.
Exactly.
So your program is the huddle.
Yeah, exactly. It's everything. And it's so funny because the people that I know that are the best at those specialists, so like the foot person that I know who's like the best foot chiropractor, she actually looks at the body as a whole.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's actually coming from the hip.
You're like, there's actually nothing wrong with your foot. This is a symptom. Which is, I mean, that's a super important piece of this. I think there is a tendency to like not want to go super deep on some of this stuff, so I think especially in online programs, because it's something that we deal with sometimes too, where we're like, man, how can we simplify this? Because it's like, it's just really hard to do. Yeah. And we've spent a lot of time trying to do that. And I've recently kind of decided that that's not a good idea. At the end of the day, I mean, if people really want to affect change for themselves, then they're going to have to understand what they're doing to some degree. You just got to do it, make the commitment, make it happen. And so I think it's great. Like, here, give them the full manual and some pointers on how to like best approach it.
Yes,
so look, you're going to need to know these things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and that's cool. That's what's hard. And I do have like I have reference guides. So I say, like, if you are just wanting to get in really quickly and see what can help with your back, I do have like an example of a back routine, an example of a knee routine, an example. So I make it known that this is just an example. Right. This is not going to be your go-to. You should be able to go into the program and find what your go-to should be.
Yeah, that's cool.
Awesome.
So, my brain's just all over the map right now. So sorry.
Mine, don't
this is
worry.
going to be. You're gonna pull this one right out of the dark, I'm sure. So I've always wondered about this. I think we see it quite a bit with the breath, the breathing exercises, and what some of the PRI stuff that guys are doing. But
PRI.
this idea that part of your range of motion limitation, let's say somebody, we'll just go like kind of extreme with it. Somebody was trying to do the splits, like the side splits. If you lifted just one leg, you could get some degree of opening. And if you lifted just the other one, you'd get another degree. But if you try to do both at the same time, they're not going to do it.
Right.
And so there's been this idea that somewhere in your brain, it's like, this is not safe. You don't have this skill.
Yep.
What's going on there? Is it really that simple? Or is there like more to the movement aspect of that than just like, you're not safe?
And your body's like, no,
stop
abort.
it.
Honestly, I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And it's the easiest way for people to be able to digest. And that's what I do. That's what if you look at my Instagram, it's the easiest way to be able to digest the information.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's what I want people to understand. It doesn't have to be too complicated.
Right.
And how you said it, like the body doesn't feel safe. Perfect.
Okay.
That's everything. And will it vary? 100%. And it's going to vary from person to person depending on, do you sit all day long at an office, or are you up and walking around? Are you using your body like having to grab stuff and turn? And, so your body might be used to going into deeper ranges of motion than someone else's.
Right.
It might feel safe because it does that all the time. So it's really it's so dependent person to person.
Yeah. But
that's why, when we break it down to the basic level, if you're not going to that range, your body doesn't want to yet, and it doesn't know it yet. It's an unknown area.
Right.
So until we're able to teach it how to do both legs at the same time, it won't know how to go back there.
So which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Meaning, do you show the body the position, or do you work on sort of the central nervous system and that response first? Or is it kind of simultaneous?
I would say simultaneous. If you're going to do one, I always say start at the breathing module. Especially if you're having pain,
right?
Because it's such a quick, powerful tool to be able to get out of pain super quickly. Like people don't even realize. I have people on my table, and that's one of the first things that we go over is the breath. And I have people crying, and they're like, I don't know why I'm crying, and I'm like, yeah, I do. You're actually allowing your body to like chill for a second, especially when I see a lot of people who've had pain for a long time, and they've tried this chiropractor, this PT, this, they've tried all these different things, and it's not working. It's not working. And you're locking up in your body, and you're frustrated, and you're like, it's just not working. And so people come in super locked up. And when they're actually able to take that response down and they're able to drop in and find compassion for that being okay as well, they experience this release. And it's the first time that it's like, whoa, my body can get back to having no pain. And it's so sudden and so like unknown.
Yeah, I think it's emotional.
And that's where it's really, I think this is kind of what I was saying I really get from your Instagram, is that you have this sense of healing and warmth, and I think that that's what people aren't getting a lot of times. They are getting these people who are manipulating tissue or forcing things into positions or providing, temporary relief, but we're missing this healing aspect, like this emotional compassion, like you said, and I think that is really what spoke to me about the way you come across, is that that's in there and it needs to be in there. People really need that. They need a sense of like, it's okay to be where you are, and then let's move forward.
Thank you. I love that, because that is totally my message, and everything that I'm trying to convey is about compassion and love for your body, not hating your body. And I tell people reach out to me all the time, I have scoliosis, I can't move, what should I do? And I'm like, cool, me too. And honestly, the majority of people have scoliosis. It's functional scoliosis. We grow up in these different positions and things happen. And our insides are all over the place. Like, why do we expect our outsides to be perfectly symmetrical? It's so crazy. So I say, okay, and and you can't move. You should be able to.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've gotten a DM one time where someone was like, well, I have scoliosis. My chiropractor told me I can't load my spine. So what kind of workout should I do? And I was like, well, then you better lay down all the time.
Right.
Because just standing up, you're going to load the spine.
Yeah. You're going to need a float tank all the time. Yeah.
And it's crazy to me, the language that's still out there. That's it's so scary for the brain, you know? And I work with people where this one woman, I was treating her actually in my building. So I was seeing her like back-to-back days, which was really easy because I didn't have to go anywhere then.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. But she threw out her back and she was like, I feel like if I stand up, it's going to explode. And I was like, okay, let's pull it in. Yeah, exactly. Let's just get out of that language because I promise you won't explode. But it's crazy. Like the language that we tell ourselves, the things that we're saying in our head, it does have such a powerful effect on what your body will feel.
Yeah.
Right.
So first come from compassion. And it is okay to feel pain. It's actually a good thing. It's a warning sign. Like our body, if our body's not feeling pain, that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
That's where people lose feet and, you know, from having diabetes and stuff like that. They start having, exactly. And they stop having the feeling. So pain is beautiful. Pain is needed in our lives and in our body. It's not something we run from. It's something we tune into.
Right. Yeah. There's people who can't feel pain, and it's like it's detrimental.
It's so detrimental.
Yeah. It's like it's not a good thing if you can't feel it.
Not.
Yeah. So what are you most excited about these days? Like you've got so much going for you. You're traveling. You're in love. You're all those things. What are you most excited about moving forward?
Oh, just continuing to spread this message of tuning into the body and empowering people to be able to take the responsibility back into their own hands. Because it's such a big message and it's hard and it's scary for people to understand. Like, I don't go to someone and they fix me. I actually have to fix myself.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so just changing the dialogue, changing the perception of pain and your body and what that really means and how much that we have an effect on ourselves. So I'm really excited to just continue to talk to people like you guys and be able to spread the message in podcasts and however else that might be seen. I didn't even talk about the other program.
I know. Let's
we
do
would
it.
I maybe go into that one?
Yeah.
So that one is for people who don't want to go into it as much.
Okay. We really encourage you to go all the way in.
But there's this other one.
Yeah.
So the optimal body, I used to do HIIT workouts, or not used to, but I do HIIT workouts often, all the time. And when I had Snapchat, I still do it. I still have Snapchat, but I'm never on it.
Yeah. Right.
It's still technically there.
Yeah. I used to share my HIIT workouts that I would write out, and I would see the amount of screenshots because you could see that on Snapchat.
Yeah.
And so it was so fun for me to be able to see how many people were screenshotting it and doing it with me. And I realized this is something that I can actually bring people, because I would get questions all the time. Well, but what is that movement? And I'm so big on form where it's like, no, you have to see me because you have to know what it looks like. You can't just... So that's where it was like, okay, let me just share my HIIT workouts that you can functionally do in your home, where you can still get unilateral work. You can still get rotation. You can still get load. You can still get pull. But how can you do that from the comforts of your home?
Right.
So that's where I created this program that has functional HIIT workouts. It has core stability workouts, because I feel like the core is also misleading, because that incorporates the breath and the pelvic floor and everything else. So if we're not using
not just crunches,
the pillar, exactly. If we're not using the pillar as a whole, we can actually be very detrimental to our bodies. So it has core stability workouts that really just go from level 1 to level 4 each month. So it's the same kind of workout, just done in different kinds of levels.
Okay.
And then 4 mobility flows for different parts of the body. So
cool.
The spine, the lower body, the upper body, the full body. So things that you can take where it's like 5 to 8 minutes, so it's not too long either. You can drop it into the beginning of a workout, the end of a workout, or maybe just on your rest day where you don't have to think. You don't have to go into the mobility method and assess what's actually wrong. You can just use this as a tool for your life. So as long as people are moving into it and getting an idea, I'm happy.
That's awesome. I think the flows are such a good idea.
Totally.
Because there's a piece of the mobility work, and I mean, sometimes you just need to do something that's kind of specific. It's, you know, it's like there's not a lot of ways to flow into like distracted hip external rotation. You're just going to spend some time there,
Yeah.
But there's something about the mindset piece of this, and that, because I mean, we see it a lot in the more, I don't know, the strength and conditioning crowd, the people who are hitting the gym and they're going to train, and it's not a matter of, oh, I'm going to hit this class today or that class. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but there's the preparatory stress response that shows up for folks who know it's leg day, and they're going to go in and they're ramped up before they even walk through the door. And what an amazing way to actually develop some mobility, calm everything down a little bit, and then hit your lifts,
Exactly.
And it's one of the things that I really like about the PRI stuff is like a reset halfway between something, and so it's like, if you can do some sort of a flow that's just like chill and everything's cool, and then you go get crazy and smack your face and, do whatever you're going to do, and then calm down, get a little, some deep squat breathing in, and then go do your thing again. And it's like, it just, the results, like the ability to get through a workout faster, for one, which is sort of counterintuitive, but like, if you can kind of just calm down and move, you waste a lot less time, at the end of the day.
And it's so cool, crazy that I still get questions of like, but if I stretch, how can I be strong? And I'm like, what?
Oh, good point.
So funny, right? Never mind.
I don't know.
I'm like, oh, you're right. You shouldn't do it. Just be super stiff and try to lift.
Yeah.
With very short ranges of motion.
The scar tissue does add a lot of torque.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's funny.
So funny.
Jammed up.
So we used to ask this question all the time to our guests, and we haven't done it in a while, but I really want to hear from you because I think it's going to be good. But
no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure.
No, we can just cut it out if it's not.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So if you were going to say 3 things that people should do to really take care of themselves, to really, have the leg up, if you will, on their health and fitness and well-being, what are those top 3 things for you?
I'm going to talk about a conversation first, because
Okay.
we have conversations in our head all the time. But the other side of a conversation is actually listening. So if we're not listening to our bodies, we're missing a huge chunk. I mean, the conversation, first of all, should be positive.
Right.
Stop tearing yourself down.
Yeah.
You're not broken. You're not bad. You're not wrong. You're not ugly. All these, whatever negative things that you're telling yourself. So the conversation that you're putting into your mind, what is that? Take a look at that. And then what is the listening part? Are you actually taking the time to tune in? Are you listening, like, after you ate that food, did you feel bad? Did you just pop a tum? Or did you actually say, maybe I should cut something out?
Yeah.
Or am I feeling a little achy? Have I done my mobility? Have I, so taking that conversation piece into your body is huge. So that's the first thing that I would recommend. The second thing would be breathing. And what does that actually look like, feel like? Is, because we're all doing it. So obviously we're alive. You're listening to this, you're breathing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, is there a way to make it a little bit more effective and efficient for your body? So take the time to learn that, whether it's getting into the program or finding a different program, whatever it may be, but learn, because we also got into this language of belly breathing, where now I have so many clients coming in and are just literally forcing their bellies in and out. And I'm like,
what's going on down there? Yeah.
I like the effort.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate where that's coming from. And so actually taking the time to reach out, learn from someone, go to a class. Like there's so much out there nowadays where you can actually find amazing resources.
Right.
Probably just hop on YouTube and find something as well. I'm sure you can. There's resources at the tip of our fingertips. So learn what it is that you can do for your body and dive in. And then the third thing would be to find your gratitude for your day, for your body, for yourself every single day. Because when we focus on that, so much can open up.
See, I
like
told
it.
you.
Yeah. And we didn't send you these. And we didn't send you these questions beforehand. That's like, because we haven't really been accused of that, but I think people think that because people just like you just nail it. They're like, oh, I know exactly what these 3. Here they are, pop, 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 pop. And you're like, wow, that's pretty good.
So tell people where they can find you, where they can find the programs, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So my biggest presence is going to be Instagram, DocJenFit. I do have Facebook, DocJenFit, but that's basically what I show on Instagram. And then DocJenFit.com, you can find all the programs and everything.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming over.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this was so fun.
This was so fun. I appreciate you guys.
Awesome. Okay, we'll hope to see you soon, and you're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. And that's a wrap, folks. We hope you enjoyed that podcast
Yes.
as much as we enjoyed recording it.
We know you did.
We know you did.
Because she was awesome.
Yep.
You got to admit it. Like, you can feel it. It just oozes out of her, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, and she's got her why figured out.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. I mean, it's a really big deal. She knows exactly why she's doing what she's doing, and it just makes the whole thing resonate, you know?
It really does.
And it's like, it's awesome.
Yeah, you can feel the authenticity, and I think that really makes a difference. And that's what I really was drawn to her about, was her authenticity and her joy.
Yeah.
You know, on the heels of our last podcast, where we were talking all things joy and happiness, this girl's got it going on. So it was really awesome to see that in living color. And yeah, we just had such a great time. And we will see you guys next week with another awesome episode. Until then, bye.
Bye.
And I don't think I would be me